And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Mark Singer!
Come fly with me. Let's fly away. If you can use some exotic booze, there's a bar in far Bombay. Come on, fly with me. Let's fly away. Come fly with me, let's float down to Peru. In Llama Land, there's a one-man band, and he'll toot his flute for you. Come on, fly with me. Let's float down in the blue. Once I get you up there, where the air is rarefied, we'll just glide, starry-eyed. Once I get you up there, I'll be holding you so near. You may hear angels cheer, 'cause we're together. Weather-wise, it's such a lovely day. Just say the word and we'll beat those birds down to Acapulco Bay. It's perfect for a flying honeymoon, they say. Come fly with me, let's fly away. Once I get you up there, where the air is rarefied, we'll just glide, starry-eyed. Once I get you up there, I'll be holding you so very near that you may hear the angels cheer, 'cause we're together. Weather-wise, it's such a lovely day. Just say the word and we'll beat those birds down to Acapulco Bay. It's perfect for a flying honeymoon, they say. Come fly with me, let's fly. Come on, let's fly away. Thank you, and welcome to Characters, which we began with that song by Jimmy Van Heusen and Sammy Kahn. Why Characters? Because I have known a lot of them, although I must tell you that Characters was not the original idea for this cabaret. No, at first, I was going to call it Pandora. The idea being that we would perform songs for you that my Pandora radio station, specifically the one I called Frank Sinatra Radio, had played for me. But I began to have doubts about that concept when I read the Wikipedia entry about Pandora. Now, you may know this, Pandora was a famous figure in Greek mythology, in fact, the first woman. But what she is best known for is opening a jar, not a box, a jar, that released all the evils of humanity. This did not seem like an auspicious association for a cabaret. And I dropped the idea entirely when I read that the literal translation of Pandora is the all-endowed. I did not want to raise unreasonable expectations in the minds of my audience. So, I was at a bit of a loss. New Year's Eve, I'm out to dinner with Julia and her husband Colin, my wife Darcy, and I'm entertaining them with some stories about some of the more interesting people I've known in my life, and it occurs to me, well, that would be an interesting scaffolding for a cabaret. My friend John McCaffrey, a character in his own right, suggested the title Characters, and at that point it simply became a matter of deciding who to include and who didn't make the cut. Now, among those not included, my basketball buddies from Thursday night. This is a raffish bunch of characters, guys in their 40s, 50s, 60s who still just can't give up the game, and that, by the way, is the young man's game. At the Tuesday night game, my nickname is Whippersnapper. Don't let Whippersnapper shoot. Then there's, also not included, the brainiac quants from my Wall Street days. You see, I saluted them years ago in a musical tribute, Gilbert and Sullivan spoof. It went something like this. Our people are so smart that you would never want to eat with them. They only talk investments, and they often have a lot of phlegm. Their quantitative babblings is like a form of brain abuse, with many cheerful facts about the square of the hypotenuse. And finally, no one from Finn Partners, my current employer, is included in the show tonight. Large sighs of relief from the audience. Large sighs of relief right here. I work with these people. Granted, it's only 2 days a week, but one of those days is tomorrow, so we're just not going to go there. But I think you'll like the ones who I did include. Now, some of you may find some of these stories familiar, but as my father of blessed memory used to say, a good story, or any story for that matter, bears repeating often. So here they are. Characters, some of my favorites, and we'll start at the very beginning. In my youth, you were my adored one. Then you became the bored one. And I was like a toy that brought you joy one day. A broken toy that you preferred to throw away. If I expected love when first we kissed, blame it on my youth. If only just for you I did exist, blame it on my youth. I believed in everything like a child of 3. You meant more than anything. You meant all the world to me. If you were on my mind all night and day, blame it on my youth. If I forgot to eat and sleep and pray, blame it on my youth. If I cried a little bit when first I learned the truth, don't blame it on my heart. Don't blame it on my heart. Don't blame it on my heart. Blame it on my youth. Thank you. Thank you. Like the composer of that song, Oscar Levant, my mother's father was a rabbi. My father was a cantor at Temple Emmanuel in Passaic, New Jersey. Passaic is a working-class suburb of New York. At the time, it had seen better days and was not improving. Now, I spent almost every Saturday morning of my youth at Temple Emmanuel, where I was, it seems sometimes by far the youngest congregant. On the high holidays, Temple Emmanuel's vast sanctuary was filled to capacity, 700 people, 800. On a Saturday, typical Saturday, fewer. 30, 20, average age, 70. But what we lacked in quantity we made up for in personality. There was Manny Mirsky, a strapping 4'10" with a voice to match. Manny loved nothing more than to volunteer to lead services whenever possible. I'll be leading the morning services today, Mark. But where he really shone was on the aforementioned high holidays, where Manny just loved to be a volunteer usher, escorting women to their seats. Right this way, ladies. Oh. And then there was Ralph Krakowski. Now, Ralph, he resembled a less sophisticated version of Danny DeVito's character on Taxi. He had lost a thumb in a military accident, and his favorite maneuver was to go up to a child and say, "Hey, hey, where's my thumb? Where's my thumb?" The unsuspecting child, knowing how these things usually worked, would point to Ralph's fist, at which point Ralph would reveal his stump to the screaming, traumatized youngster. But of all the regulars, none was more fearsome than Harry Streit. Why fearsome? Because Harry had mastered the cheek pinch, surprisingly accurate and sneaky fast. Now, word was that back in the day being the 20s, 30s, Harry had been a bootlegger, something of a gangster, and my favorite story about him revolves around his opposite, the regal, imperious judge Jacob Rinsler, a president of Temple Emmanuel, a pillar of the congregation and of the community, who, back in the day, had purchased a new automobile. And he left it idling outside the courthouse while he went inside to get his friends so he could show off his new purchase. He emerged. Car was gone. Stolen. Minutes of mounting panic when who should drive up in the car but Harry Streit. Jumps out of the car, tosses the judge the keys and says, "Thanks, Judge. I had to make a delivery." Yes, these were the companions of my youth. And it all happened in Passaic, west of New York, where we all wanted to be, and east of everything else. East of the sun and west of the moon, we'll build a dream house of love, dear, near to the sun in the day, near to the moon at night. We'll live in a lovely way, dear, living on love and pale moonlight, just you and I, forever and a day. Love will not die, we'll keep it that way. Up above the stars we'll find a harmony of life to a lovely tune. East of the sun and west of the moon, dear. East of the sun and west of the moon. Up above the stars we'll find a harmony of life to a lovely tune. East of the sun and west of the moon, dear. East of the sun and west of the moon. Thank you. Thank you, Julia. That tune was the one hit of Brooks Bowman. He wrote it in 1934 while a student at Princeton University. Now, I do not think Brooks would have been a good fit at Temple Emmanuel. But two men who were, the brothers Simon, the doctors Simon, Philip and Aaron. Philip, the younger, relatively speaking, more subdued, relatively speaking. Aaron, less so. He was in his 80s, but appeared older with jowls down to his knees. Aaron had not always been a doctor. He had started his professional career as an attorney, but had been disbarred. When I asked my mother if he'd ever spent time in prison, she said, "Oh, yes, yes." And it was right around the time fellow congregant Leo Greenberg had been in prison for cornering the market and black market sugar during World War II. But I digress. Aaron my favorite story about him, he had a patient who was giving him some pushback about a diagnosis, and Aaron kept promising to bring in a specialist to give him a second opinion. Guy kept bugging him. Finally, one day, sure enough, shows up with a colleague, guy, suit and tie, gray hair, glasses. They examine the patient, and they go off to the corner to confer. The whole time, the patient is eyeballing this guy with a mixture of curiosity and incredulity, when suddenly it hits him and he goes, wait a minute, that guy's no specialist. That guy's my mailman. I look at you and suddenly something in your eyes I see soon begins bewitching me. It's that old devil moon that you stole from the skies. It's that old devil moon in your eyes. You and your glance make this romance too hot to handle. Stars in the night, blazing their light, can't hold a candle to your razzle-dazzle. You've got me flying high and wide on a magic carpet ride, full of butterflies inside. Wanna cry, wanna croon, wanna laugh like a loon. It's that old devil moon in your eyes. You and your glance make this romance too hot to handle. Stars in the night, blazing their light, can't hold a candle to your razzle-dazzle. You've got me flying high and wide on a magic carpet ride, full of butterflies inside. Wanna cry, wanna croon, wanna laugh just like a loon. It's that old devil moon in your eyes. Just when I think I'm free as a dove, old devil moon, deep in your eyes, blinds me with love. With that song by Yip Harburg and Burton Lane, we leave Temple Emmanuel and Passaic behind. We head for more glamorous New Jersey locations, specifically Patterson and Paramus, where I attended elementary school and high school. This next song is dedicated to my teachers, an enduring group, extremely patient group, for I was not a good student. One who comes to mind, Mr. Katz, fine man, a good teacher, very kind, very sweet. He would not have liked that. But Mr. Katz, he was dedicated to certain old school teaching methods, specifically the handing out of writing punishments. 100 times, I will do my homework. 250 times, I will do my homework. 500 times, I will do my homework. 1,000 times, I will do my writing punishments. I spent a great deal of 5th grade hiding from Mr. Katz in my elementary school's boys' bathroom. Did you say, I've got a lot to learn? Well, don't think I'm trying not to learn, since this is the perfect spot to learn. Teach me tonight, starting with the ABC of it, right down to the XYZ of it. Help me solve the mystery of it. Come on and teach me tonight. The sky's a blackboard high above you. If a shooting star goes by, I'll use that star to write I love you 1,000 times across the sky. You know, equally memorable, but for completely different reasons. My 9th and 10th grade French teacher, Madame Foudim. Madame Foudim was drop dead gorgeous. She was in her 20s. She had a Farrah Fawcett hairdo. This was the 70s. She was given to wearing tight leotard tops and low-cut blouses. How this woman ever became a member of the faculty of my yeshiva, it baffles me to this day. But there she was. Now, despite Madame Foudim's obvious skills, even she could not inspire within me any aptitude in French whatsoever. So junior year came around, French became an elective rather than a requirement. I dropped it. And yet, in the back of my mind, some days more towards the front, I thought about Madame Foudim, and I hoped that I'd made an impression on her and that she missed me, that she looked for me in the hallways. So one day, my sister, who'd been a student at the school, came back for a visit and went to see her old French teacher. In the course of their conversation, Madame Foudim turns to her and she says, "Didn't you have a brother who went to this school?" Sister said, "Yes." She said, "Didn't he graduate a few years ago?" "A few years ago?" "Madame Foudim, you broke my heart. The sky's a blackboard high above you, and if a shooting star goes by, I'll use that star to write I love you 1,000 times across the sky. One thing isn't very clear, my love. Should the teacher stand so near, my love? Graduation's almost here, my love. Teach me tonight. Come on and teach me. Teach me tonight." Thank you. Thank you. That song, written by Jean DePaul and Sammy Cahn. Now, in 1974, my Uncle Sam took me, my brother and sister, to see Sammy Cahn's one-man show on Broadway, Words and Music. A one-man musical on Broadway starring a middle-aged Jewish balding white guy. It's hard to imagine. Though I can't imagine my father saying that Bruce Springsteen fella, he sounds Jewish. My Uncle Sam, my father's brother, was one of the great characters in my life. My Upper West Side bachelor uncle, he lived a couple of blocks from here, took us to baseball games, Broadway shows when he wasn't squiring mysterious lady friends around the city. About 10 years after Words and Music, I met another character on Broadway. This one I met was on the stage. At the time, I'd recently graduated college, and I was floundering. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know what kind of person I was. I didn't know how to be in a relationship. I was down. But that night, I was inspired. The show was Stephen Sondheim's Sunday in the Park with George. The character was the Impressionist painter, Georges Seurat. And the inspiration was art. Yes, she looks for me. Good. Let her look for me to tell me why she left me, as I always knew she would. I had thought she understood. They have never understood, and no reason that they should. But if anybody could, finishing the hat, how you have to finish the hat. How you watch the rest of the world from a window while you finish the hat, mapping out a sky. What you feel like planning a sky. What you feel when voices that come through the window go until they distance and die, until there's nothing but sky, and how you're always turning back to late from the grass or the stick or the dog or the light. How the kind of woman willing to wait's not the kind that you want to find waiting to return you to the night. Dizzy from the height, coming from the hat, starting on a hat, entering the world of the hat, reaching through the world of the hat like a window, back to this one from that, studying a face, stepping back to look at a face, leaves a little space in the way like a window, but to see, it's the only way to see. And when the woman that you wanted goes, you can say to yourself, well, I give what I give. But the woman who won't wait for you knows that however you live, there's a part of you always standing by, mapping out the sky, finishing a hat, starting on a hat, finishing a hat. Look, I made a hat where there never was a hat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As inspiring as Sunday in the Park with George was, it alone could not cure what ailed me. That required therapy, a lot of therapy, and a rather extraordinary therapist and an extraordinary character named Bill Krakauer, who I think may be in the audience tonight. I hope. Bill retired from medicine in his 70s and decided he was going to build his acting career. He'd always been a very good performer. One night I'm flipping channels, come across an episode of Louis C.K.'s show. There's my therapist. He's standing in a dingy apartment in his underwear waving a pickle in the air. And I thought, that's pretty cool. But before the pickle, way before the pickle, I struggled, and Bill really helped me. He helped me decide what I wanted to do with my life, what kind of person I wanted to be, that I wanted music to be in my life. He helped me understand how to be in a relationship, but it was a struggle, and it took time, and it wasn't easy. The sun comes up, I think about you. The coffee cup, I think about you. I want you so, it's like I'm losing my mind. The morning ends, I think about you. I talk to friends, I think about you. And do they know it's like I'm losing my mind? All afternoon doing every little chore, the thought of you stays bright. Sometimes I stand in the middle of the floor, not going left, not going right. I dim the lights and think about you, spend sleepless nights to think about you. You said you loved me, or were you just being kind? Or am I losing my mind? I want you so, it's like I'm losing my mind. And do they know it's like I'm losing my mind? All afternoon doing every little chore, the thought of you stays bright. Sometimes I stand in the middle of the floor, not going left, not going right. I dim the lights and think about you, spend sleepless nights to think about you. You said you loved me, or were you just being kind? Or am I losing my mind? Thank you. Oh, it gets awfully dry up here. I never knew the name of one of my favorite New York City characters. He worked in my favorite New York City restaurant, Frank's, down on West 14th Street near the river. Frank's was a steakhouse with great food and terrible decor. The place had cracked tile floors covered in sawdust. Probably hadn't been redecorated since it opened in 1912. The only distinguishing feature, it had a big, old, antique wooden bar, oak bar, that ran the length of this rather modest dining room. Now, Frank's, back in the day, had served breakfast to the longshoremen, and there were always rumors that there were links to those whom we will call wise guys. Besides the great food, the other constant at Frank's was the guy who informed you of the day's specials, which he carried on a chalkboard, written down a chalkboard. He carried it from table to table. Like our friend Ralph Krakowski, this gentleman bore a pronounced resemblance to Danny DeVito, only much, much hairier. Now, the last time I dined at Frank's down on 14th Street, I brought a friend, and when we arrived, there was a sign in the window saying, "Downstairs closed, restaurant is operating upstairs." There was a private dining room on the second floor. I'd had my bachelor party there a few years earlier. We get to the second floor, fully operational restaurant, complete with the guy with the chalkboard. When he approaches our table, I make the mistake of engaging him in conversation. And I say how sorry I am that we're there when they're renovating, so I can't show my friend the downstairs. Says DeVito Krakowski, as I like to call him, says to me, "Oh, we ain't renovating." "No? No, we had a fire." "Oh. Yeah. Our lease was up, and they raised the rent on us. And then we had a fire. We're moving." I said, the only thing that occurred to me, "Oh, how sad. That beautiful oak bar." Guy said, yeah. The fire, it burned everything. Except the bar. We're taking it with us. Ah, Frank's. The Olive Garden, it wasn't. Now it's a boutique. So, in memory of Frank's and to a New York that, like Frank's, is now gone, we're going to do this song by Henry Mayer and Johnny Mercer, made famous by another son of New Jersey, Frank. The summer wind came blowing in from across the sea. It lingered there to touch your hair and walk with me. All summer long, we sang a song and then we strolled that golden sand. Two sweethearts and the summer wind. Like painted kites, those days and nights they went flying by. The world was new beneath a blue umbrella sky. Then softer than a piper man, one day it called to you. I lost you to the summer wind. The autumn winds and the winter winds, they have come and gone. And still the days, those lonely days, they go on and on. And guess who sighs his lullabies through nights that never end? My fickle friend, the summer wind. The summer wind, warm summer wind, the summer wind. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If there ever was a place with a high density of characters per square foot, it was New York City's Lone Star Boat Club. The Lone Star Boat Club was a gentleman's club with very few gentlemen and no ladies. Its members were writers who wanted to be musicians, musicians who wanted to be actors, actors who wanted to be successful actors who wanted to be businessmen, and businessmen who wanted to be writers. The younger ones played basketball, the older ones played pinochle, and all made frequent use of the very large steam room and sauna on the third floor, even after, towards the end of the Lone Star's days, the rest of the third floor had been converted into an erotic massage parlor. Now, the Lone Star had its share of semi-famous and even famous members, but I'd like to tell you about a few of the characters who populated the joint, just to give you a flavor for what it was like. There was this one guy. He was a pinochle player. He wasn't in the best of shape, so he hired a personal trainer to work with him a couple of days a week. But his warmed-down beverage of choice after his workouts was an enormous water goblet filled with Dewar's scotch, sometimes two. He'd leave his empties in the stand-up ashtray by the elevator. The Lone Star had its own masseur. He was a stocky, powerful Russian who naturally, back in the old country, had been a rehearsal pianist for the ballet. So if you wandered into the Lone Star's restaurant of an evening, you might see the masseur there in his massage togs, hey, giving at the piano, a little Swan Lake, little Nutcracker. Lone Star had its own restaurant, and it was run by a basketball player, and I only knew him as Croatian John. I never knew the guy's name. But again, I digress. Back to the masseur. So a friend of mine one day is in the locker room, and he's rummaging through the refrigerator. He's looking for some beers he'd left there just a couple of days earlier, and can't find them. Masseur's sort of eyeballing him. Finally, the masseur calls out, "Hey, you look for beer?" Yeah. I drink. It's very good. Now, as I said, there was sort of young and old at the Lone Star, and there was a special relationship between the two, and I think this anecdote will illustrate the depth of that bond and seriousness of that bond. One of the the actors was in the locker room one day and one afternoon with one of the older members of the group. The older member was partaking in a Lone Star traditional activity. He was inhaling large hits of oxygen from an oxygen tank that was there. So the actor engaging him in conversation says, "Hey Murray," not his real name, but it's okay. "Hey Murray, I bet back in the day you were a real ladies' man. Am I right, Murray? Do I have it right? You were a real ladies' man." And Murray answers, "Yeah." Our friend continues, "So, Murray, like, how many women were there? Because I bet you were a real player, and I'd like a count, Murray. Give me a number. How many were there?" To which Murray pauses for a moment, thinking, as if calculating, and answers, "Counting the whores?" But of all the Lone Star characters, what do you say? I don't know. Is the answer? Never mind. The most Lone Star was the legendary Big H, a legendary liquor salesman who had made a killing in vitamin water. Big H was a man of prodigious appetites, prodigious generosity, played both basketball and pinochle, neither well. Am I right, Tony? But when he picked up every check, he was really a tremendous character. So a story about him. H had started seeing a very attractive young woman, substantially younger than himself. He was approached by one of his sons, and his son said to him, "Hey, Big H," even his sons called him Big H. "Hey, Big H, what are you doing? You know she's only after your money." To which Big H sagely replied, "No, she's after your money." That was the Lone Star. It was a place for people who just didn't fit in anywhere else, so somehow we all fit in. Now, it is gone now, sadly, but this song is for all its members, especially, or I should say even those, who did not pay their dues, which is often how you became the club president. Whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, whether I find a place in this world or never belong, I've gotta be me, I've gotta be me. What else can I be but what I am? I want to live, not merely survive. And I won't give up this dream of life that keeps me alive. I've gotta be me, I've gotta be me. The dream that I see makes me what I am. That faraway prize, a world of success. It's waiting for me if I heed the call. I won't settle down or settle for less, as long as there's half a chance that I can have it all. I'll go it alone, that's how it must be. I can't be right for somebody else if I'm not right for me. I've gotta be free, I've gotta be free. Daring to try to do it or die, I've gotta be me. I'll go it alone, that's how it must be. I can't be right for somebody else if I'm not right for me. I've gotta be free, I've gotta be free. Daring to try to do it or die, I've gotta be me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That song, written by Walter Marks for a 1960s musical, Golden Rainbow, which starred the husband and wife musical team of Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet, which allows me to introduce the wife part of my husband and wife team, my wife, Darcy. Now, to introduce, now Darcy, I should say, Darcy is obviously my partner in music. She is my partner in life. She is my partner in child rearing, and she is my partner in dog walking. So let's talk about dog walking, because it will introduce you to a side of Darcy. And even those of you who know her just might not be familiar with this particular part of her persona. And it will also introduce you to a story and a character who somehow only saw this side of her. Now, Darcy is a beautiful woman, and I love the way she dresses. It is sexy, it's stylish, it's funky. But Darcy hates the cold. So if she has to walk the dogs, and there's even a hint of a chill in the air, she bundles. Sweaters on the bottom, nice layer of down. On the top, usually a big fake fur coat. This is not a sleek look. And it is often accessorized with large bags filled with musical scores, sheet music, thermoses of tea, bottles of water, breath spray. Now, those of you who only know me these days, the Mark Singer who favors baseball caps, t-shirts, jeans, may not know that back in my Wall Street days, I was a bit of a dresser. Expensive tailored suits, bespoke shirts, fancy ties. When there was a chill in the air, I wore a gray fedora. Now, back in those days, we had a downstairs neighbor. And this guy was always meticulously put together, every hair in place. But he was a real sourpuss. He had a real little sour dog. Never laughed, the dog or the guy, except smiled occasionally at me. So one day, it's a chilly fall day, guy gets in the elevator, there's Darcy. She's taking the dogs for a walk. Darcy, being Darcy, greets the man warmly. Guy looks her up and down, shakes his head, goes, you're always schlepping. And your husband is so Beau Brummel. Which leads nicely into this. Stephen Sondheim. Julie Stein. Once my clothes were shabby, tailors called me cabby, so I took a vow, said this bummel be Beau Brummel. Now I'm smooth and snappy, now my tailor's happy, I'm the cat's meow, my wardrobe is a wow. Paris tweed, Paris took, there's only one thing I need. Got my tweed pressed, got my best vest. All I need now is the girl. Got my striped tie, got my hopes high, got the time and the place, and I've got rhythm. Now all I need's the girl to go with them. If she'll just appear, we'll take this big town for a whirl. And if she'll say, my darling, I'm yours, I'll throw away my striped tie and my best pressed tweed. All I really need is the girl. When I fall in love, it will be forever, or I'll never fall in love. In a restless world like this is, love is ended before it's begun, and too many moonlight light kisses seem to cool in the warmth of the sun. When I give my heart, it will be completely, or I'll never give my heart. And the moment I can feel that you feel that way too is when I fall in love. When I fall in love. When I fall in love with Thank you. With that song by Walter Hayman and Victor Young, we enter what could be a serious part of this cabaret if it was somebody else's cabaret. But this is my cabaret. Because I'm going to talk about the two most important characters in my life. One, of course, being Darcy. As I said, she is my partner in every sense of the word. One exception. The woman hates the kitchen. Not the kitchen per se. She actually loves the kitchen as an office space and a storage facility. She just doesn't think anybody should cook in it. Darcy is the master of the kitchen fire. She has set things on fire that you would not think it possible could be set on fire. The broccoli, eggs, her winter coat, my winter coat. I guess technically she melted them, but why quibble? The last time Darcy cooked fish for us, her call into the kitchen was, "Get in here now and eat this. This is disgusting." She was not wrong. But, and here's the serious part, don't blink. I wouldn't trade a moment with Darcy for a lifetime of gourmet meals. Which brings us to the other most important character, our son Akiva, and the extraordinary circumstance and development that he loves to cook. And he's really good at it. What the two of them share, they give me the illusion that I help take care of them. And by allowing me that illusion, it's really a great gift they give me. And so, in reality, they take care of me. For once in my life, I have someone who needs me, someone I've needed so long. For once unafraid, I can go where life leads me, and somehow I know I'll be strong. For once I can touch what my heart used to dream of long before I knew. Someone warm like you could make my dreams come true. For once in my life, I won't let sorrow hurt me, not like it's hurt me before. For once, I have something I know won't desert me, and I'm not alone anymore. For once I can say this is mine, you can't take it. Long as I know I have love, I can make it. For once in my life, I have someone who needs me. once I can say, this is mine, you can't take it. Long as I know I have love, I can make it. For once in my life, I found someone. Yeah, for once in my life, I have someone. For once in my life, I have someone who needs me. That song, written by the Motown composer Ronald Miller and Orlando Murden, and was first recorded, of course, by Stevie Wonder, slightly different version than the one you just heard. But that allows me to talk about performers and characters who are performers, vice versa. I, of course, have portrayed numerous characters on stage. My longest running role, an Eastern European storyteller, Jewish, with a heavy accent, lest you think it was typecasting. The character's name was Herschel the Dwarf. I think his creator is in the audience tonight. Daniel, are you out there? We're filled with celebrities tonight. There was also the first time that I was cast as a grandfather, always a very happy occasion in one's life. In a not very well-known musical called Birdseed, or as my voice teacher called it, Bird Shit. Grandpa was confined to a wheelchair for much of the production, and the stage was very steeply raked. So if I didn't set the brakes just so, there was always a chance I was going to shoot right into the first row. But what I'd really like to talk about is a gentleman who not somebody I portrayed, but a character with whom I shared the stage. This was a guy who was in a production of the great Irish play Juno and the Paycock with me. I was playing the Paycock. This gentleman was having some trouble remembering his lines. And I came on stage one day after his big scene. I found that he had taped 2 critical pages of the play onto the kitchen table on set, and I did not care for that. I mentioned it to the director. Well, the next night, the offending pages were gone, and at least from backstage, this guy's scene seemed to go pretty well. I asked my son about it. He was in the audience that night, and he said, "Oh, you mean the guy who read his lines from the inside of his hat." Yes, our friend had taped the 2 pages inside of his bowler hat, removed the cap on coming on stage, and just held it in front of him the whole time. And I said, "Was it really that noticeable?" He said, "Yeah, well, he did have to put on his reading glasses." Of course, the 2 characters with whom I've shared the stage most frequently are Julia and Darcy, most memorably for me in a series of musical reviews for which I wrote the scripts, the very first scripts I wrote. In the very first one of those shows, it opened with a great song, American classic, by Yip Harburg and Harold Arlen, and Julia did a great arrangement of it. But in her arrangement, I sang solo only on the introduction and only got to do harmony on the much more famous melody. Well, that all changes tonight. I'm singing the whole thing. The intro, which some of you I'm sure know, and the melody, which I suspect all of you know. When all the world is a hopeless jumble and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens a magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane to a place behind the sun, just a step beyond the rain. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I? Thank you. Thank you. Something else by Sondheim as we near the end. But before we do, let me tell you something about my favorite character. Complex, challenging, I think endearing. I speak, of course, of myself. Complex. I have my quirks. For example, while I'm not claustrophobic, I don't like crowds, and yet I have chosen to live my entire adult life in New York City and do not possess a driver's license, practically guaranteeing crowd discomfort on a regular basis. Challenging. I like to kid around. Now, when my son, Akiva, was young and he would bring friends over to the house, he'd always warn them first, don't believe anything my father tells you. They get there, you know, I do my thing, I kibitz, I kid around, some shtick. They go to Akiva. They say, Akiva, do you know what your father said to me? He'd stop them. He'd say, what did I say to you? Do not believe anything my father tells you. But I think endearing. I amuse myself. Just ask Darcy. She regularly walks in on me when I'm laughing to myself, I'm singing to myself, I'm chatting with myself in a strange, unrecognizable foreign accent. Fact of the matter is, while I tend to like to be alone, I really am at my best with people. And that's why I am grateful to all the characters in my life, the ones who listen to my stories, the ones who provide me with my stories, and most of all, the ones who insist on me being a part of their stories. Let me see the world with clouds. Take me to the world. Out where I can push through crowds, take me to the world. A world that smiles with streets instead of aisles, where I can walk for miles with you. Take me to the world that's real, show me how it's done. Teach me how to laugh, to feel, move me to the sun. Just hold my hand whenever we arrive. Take me to the world so I can be alive. We shall see the world come true. We shall have the world. I won't be afraid with you. We shall have the world. We shall have the world. I'll hold your hand and know I'm not alone. We shall have the world to keep. Such a lovely world will weep. We shall have the world forever. For our own. Thank you. Thank you. Before we say goodnight, I want to, first of all, I want to say a word of appreciation for the Triad Theater and their incredible staff. My tech person, everybody is just, Shannon, thank you, and thank you, Russell. They're such pros, and they make you feel very welcome. I would also like to thank the world's best sport and most beautiful sport, my wife, Darcy. And finally, last but really far from least, a few words of appreciation for the extraordinary Julia Mendelson. Julia, she is an extraordinary musician. She's the greatest accompanist, and she is the wonderful friend, and I love her. And now, just a bit more. More than the greatest love the world has known. This is the love I give to you alone. More than the simple words I try to say. I only live to love you more each day. More than you'll ever know, my arms long to hold you so. My life will be in your keeping, waking, sleeping, laughing, weeping. Longer than always is a long, long time. But far beyond forever, you'll be mine. I know I never lived before, and my heart is very sure no one else could love you more. More than you'll ever know, my arms, they long to hold you, so my life will be in your keeping, waking, sleeping, laughing, weeping. Longer than always is a long, long time. but far beyond forever, you're gonna be mine. I know I never lived before, and my heart is very sure no one else could love you more. No one else could love you more. Could love you more. Could love you more. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Singer.